Hi, it's Kirk, and Andy's with us here.
Hi, good afternoon, Liv.
And we've
Good
got
afternoon. Good
the
afternoon.
legend that is Liv Kristine, who is a musical idol and a legend of the Gothic metal scene, certainly with Theatre of Tragedy. And we've got some questions for you, Liv, and a lot of them will revolve around that. But before we start, we always just like to ask, can you tell us what's going on in your life at the moment?
Oh, we just moved home, like 5 houses further in the street. My husband and I are currently living in Switzerland. We're both from Scandinavian countries, Norway and Denmark, and but we ended up living and working in Switzerland for now. I guess we'll stay here for a couple of years, and we got the opportunity to move into a bigger flat with a roof terrace, so we have a complete view over the Swiss Alps, which is it's just unbeatable. The only thing that can beat this view is my birthplace, that fjord, that famous fjord. Yes, I'm very happy and grateful to have landed here in Lucerne in Switzerland. It feels great, and the work I'm doing with and for children with special needs makes sense to me. And yes, I'm feeling like this period of my life is a period in which I have more time to actually do the work I really love doing, working with children with special needs, and moreover, composing, playing gigs, and dealing with music. So yes, soon there's a concert. There's a gig coming up. That's in December, the 17th of December, in Germany. It's an annual gig, and we do play songs from all my albums from the times with Theatre of Tragedy as well. So yes, I'm actually in 2 days we'll be rehearsing, and yes, that's what's currently going on right now.
Very busy. Yeah, so I'm going to hand you over to Andy then. As I said, Andy feels the weight of responsibility of all Theatre of Tragedy fans. This is an absolute pleasure for you, Andy, isn't it, to speak? So I'm going to hand you over, and what would you like to ask Liv?
Okay, first of all, Liv, I discovered Theatre of Tragedy when Velvet Darkness came out, and just saw the CD in our local record store. Hadn't heard the band, didn't know anything about you, but I was drawn to the cover photo, the imagery, the song titles, the font that you use for the writing, and it has become one of my favourite ever albums. How did you get involved with the band, and what was you doing in your life at that time?
Well, at that time, Raymond, the singer of the band, and I were students of Anglistics in Stavanger, Norway. And we'd actually been, rehearsing, getting together, gathering up once a week, to see what we could come up with music-wise. We were inspired by Black Sabbath, Paradise Lost, Carcass. Enya, Mike Oldfield. It was an overall international influence. Of course, there were, some of the later very famous Norwegian black metal bands were around as well. So we were kind of a group of people seeing us as artists. Dealing with literature of Edgar Allan Poe, Shakespeare, even the language of Shakespeare, Middle High English, and it was all we were so we felt so involved with everything going on in the musical scene in Stavanger back then, as well as we just loved poetry, British poetry and American poetry from a certain kind of period. But Shakespeare was the big thing. So we met and we composed and came up with some lines, and then all of a sudden we kind of realized that it's pretty cool what we're doing. So we went into a studio. It must have been around 45 euros back then. We paid a guy 45 euros to record a cassette, and that was in 1991, 1992. And soon thereafter, we got a record deal. And then there was one album after the other. Velvet Darkness, The Fear was the second album, and I think it's the most sold album of the ones I was part of with Theatre of Tragedy. And I have to say, we were just in there. We were just feeling free and feeling like being very authentic and highly creative. And those were really, really good times. And everything went really fast. So as soon as Velvet Darkness, The Fear kind of, well, there was global interest for that album and for the band as well, and we went on tour, and then we recorded A.D.K, which kind of seemed to be a very important, like a milestone as well, and in Theatre of Tragedy's career. So. But I have to say that every album of Theatre of Tragedy is different. So we've never felt like we have to do something because other bands were doing this and that, or that we had to go with the flow. We never did that. So it's everything I did with Theatre of Tragedy and everything that Theatre of Tragedy ever came up with feels highly authentic.
Definitely.
Absolutely. See where the Shakespeare influence comes from in the lyrics, because they are fantastic in certainly the early songs. But going back even further, your voice is amazing, of course, and is appreciated the world over. How much formal training did you have before you became a vocalist?
I kind of lost you. Could you repeat the question?
I'm sorry. just wondering how much formal training you had as a vocalist.
None, actually, zero. I started singing when I was about 3 years old, and that's when I realized that, well, okay, to me, singing seemed to be the easiest way for me to use my voice. Kind of. I was not a big talker. I was a late talker as well, and they wouldn't even allow me to enter kindergarten for that reason, because I wouldn't talk to anybody. So I kind of I spent a lot of my childhood in that bubble with listening to music, and my parents were so young when I was born, and they were Black Sabbath fans, Ozzy fans, Iron Maiden, Deep Purple, ABBA fans, Edward Grieg, classical fans. So there was a lot of music in our home. And if you know Theatre of Tragedy, you know that there is some Edward Grieg in there. There are some of the bands I mentioned. And I've always used my true personal voice. I never tried to really sound like anyone. That was the voice, or that is the voice I've been given, and that is yes, I'm very grateful for it. I seem to have I seem to have this ability of perfect hearing. So actually going this way, studying music in a different way than most other singers probably, has also made me feel very comfortable with the voice I've got. So I've never been afraid of losing it or harming it, hurting it, or that it might sound weak or anything. It's just been a very personal road, developing my my voice, my inner voice and my outer voice. And today I just encourage people to do the same. I mean, it's wonderful if you can go to a school and study singing, music. Maybe I should have done that, but I studied languages instead and ended up with, working with kids with special needs, apart from being a musician. So, well, I thought about it. Maybe I should start studying singing now, but I don't know. I feel so comfortable right now. I think I've come far enough to say that I really trust my voice, and I have the same how do you say, range. I have the same range as when I was 16, which I'm very happy and grateful for.
Yeah, and can I just come in at this point here as well? It's interesting what you're saying, Liv, that perhaps that unique style that you have could have been coached out of you if you'd have had some formal training where people would have been thinking, oh, we need to correct the pitch here, and that wouldn't be you, would it? And I get the same feeling when I listen to Björk, and also inevitably I'm going to say Kate Bush, who I think is a great artist, and that's just natural, isn't it? What they're doing, you're very similar.
Thank you very much. That's a wonderful compliment to get, and I really appreciate that. Björk is highly individual, as well as Kate Bush. I forgot to mention her. I've always been a great admirer of Kate Bush, and Björk I discovered later. Those are female singers with very authentic voices. Absolutely. I can't imagine they had vocal coaching. I can't imagine that. So basically I'm telling now, as I'm doing vocal coaching myself, I'm telling people to sing with their authentic voices. It's nice to know some techniques, for special singing manners. If you want to train in that area, that's wonderful. We can do that too. But first of all, you need to get to know your own authentic voice and start from there.
Okay. Talking about your first solo album, Deus Ex Machina, that was released in 1998, which was the same year as Aegis.
Yes.
How did that album come about, and how did Nick Holmes get involved on the song 3 AM?
Well, as I already told, I was a great Paradise Lost fan, and Ozzy or Nick Holmes, and Nick Holmes happened to be around, so. The record label that was interested in releasing a solo album with me and publishing Deus Ex Machina. That was the same label, Massacre Records, that published the three first Theatre of Tragedy albums, and they got in touch with Nick. He was on tour, and I picked him up. We went to the studio, and I made him a cup of tea, and the recordings just went really well. So Nick is a lovely person, and I still love his voice. And when he's around, I'll go and see him at the gigs.
You've sort of touched on some. Vocalists who influenced you and you admire. I think Kate Bush and Björk come up in conversation, but there's anybody else who influences you or you admire as a vocalist?
Well, I've always loved Mike Oldfield, and some of the female vocalists Mike Oldfield worked with are wonderful. One of them being a Norwegian singer. Actually, she was his wife for a while, and we covered To France, which is absolutely amazing. What was the name of the female singer? She's still around. I love her voice. I'm so sorry to have forgotten her name, but she's lovely. I might remember in 2 minutes. Maggie Rayleigh. I think it's Maggie Rayleigh, yes. And I love Irish folk singers as well. And yes, they're really the way they're singing is very authentic to me. What I forgot to mention, harmonies. I've always loved harmonies, and ABBA is a band that has magic harmonies, and I studied them when I was little, and there seems to be some kind of thing that has stayed with me, some kind of ability that has stayed with me. So when I'm in the studio, I'm just waiting to get the first voice, the main voice, get that recorded, get that done, and then start with the second and third and fourth voices, and that's something I really love.
Okay, sticking with your solo albums, Liv, can you tell us how the songwriting process develops and how those songs form? Because I hope I'm right in saying I did read that one sort of small regret you have is that you don't play an instrument. I wonder if that's changed in recent years, but how involved are you personally in the songwriting process, and how do those songs come to life on your solo albums?
Well, it's been a different process this time with my next solo album coming out in April. It's been a process of nearly 6 years. We released a single and an EP in connection with the composing process. This time, for this album, my upcoming solo album, my sixth solo album, I worked with Tommy Olsson, who also composed the legendary Aegis of Theatre of Tragedy. He was in the band for one album, and he's still on that island, living in his old house, spending a lot of time in his Gothic studio, and it's just it's magic to work with him, and he's highly creative, and he knows exactly what kind of music and songs and compositions I would love to sing on. And we get that magic happening together. So every time I'm visiting my family in Norway, I visit Tommy on his island, in his Dark Rider studio. And the album is in the mix. It's nearly finished now. And it's going to get mastered, and then we will have it finished for our upcoming release in April. So the other solo albums were recorded in a different studio, in a different way, mainly with people who were around at the times when I was involved with my former band, Leaves Eyes. So there were, people coming and going, people who happened to have great ideas, and it's every solo album has been a different composing process in general. So, but this time it's Tommy and me.
Okay. I was like to see on your 2015 tour, Raymond joining you for the Theatre of Tragedy songs that you included in the set.
Yeah.
I very nearly came to your London show towards the end of the year, but I didn't make it, unfortunately. But I'd love to have gone. But how did Raymond's involvement come about?
Well, actually, it was through Tommy, I think. And Tommy said Raymond is he's still living in Norway, and here are his contacts, and why not get in touch with him? So I did, because I had no clue that he'd been living abroad in Brazil, I think, for years, and we kind of we just made a deal. Let's get together back on stage and let's do some of the old songs, because I'd been playing live shows, solo shows, playing some of the Theatre of Tragedy songs, and it was a privilege to have Ray on stage. So I took him with me on tour. That was in 2015. Yes, that was my last solo tour. So I hope to be back on stage for a short tour next year with my upcoming solo album. But I have no clue where Ray is living right now. That he seems to be around the globe.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I watched a couple of clips before I headed over to Kirk's today, and just made me feel so emotional seeing the two of you interact together, singing those wonderful songs together. It was brilliant, and I'm really sorry I wasn't able to see it for myself when you played in London that time. That is all my questions, Liv. But a very good friend of mine, Michael Catchpole, sent me a couple to run past you, if that's okay.
Yes.
Back on Theatre of Tragedy. What were your thoughts regarding the sort of change of direction and the style of material for the music and assembly albums, which was very different, obviously, from the previous Theatre of Tragedy album? There's a big departure for the band, very different style of music. What were your thoughts, sort of thinking back to those times?
Well, new members had joined Theatre of Tragedy, new people, and then the music also changed, and Ray's taste in music changed radically as well. And Ray kind of he bought himself a couple of sound machines, and he had fun with that. So many things changed. We had a big label supporting us, and I know now that the more money being flowing into this thing, into an album, into a release, the more they have to say. And so the label also made decisions, which was that was fine back then. But I think that the label also supported a more a different sound, a more technical based sound back then, and many bands did that at that time. So that was it was still something that we were eager to release. We were happy about the songs, and I really loved those two albums, but it was a different thing, and some people couldn't really understand what we were doing as we changed that radically. But as said, every Theatre of Tragedy album I've been part of is authentic for the time that it was made and produced and composed and so on. And I'm very, very proud of every album. Very proud to have been part of that.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing as well, just today I was listening to your current project, Midnight Zoll. Obviously, your sister is in that project, and your long-time collaboration with Napalm Records. What are the plans for a new record with that band?
Carmen, my sister, is living in Norway. She moved back to Norway many years ago, and when she lived in Germany, it was easier for the band to gather and to rehearse and and compose and so on. And it's well, all of them, I think, all members are involved in family situations right now. So I think it's hard for them it's hard for Carmen to fly all the way to Germany for rehearsals and for shows and shows in other countries. So right now I think Midnight Soul are having a break, but I'll see my sister this Christmas. We'll talk about it. We haven't talked about Midnight Soul for a while, so I hope there will be some good news. There was some talking about an acoustic album, so let's see if that can happen soon.
Liv, a question that both me and my friend Michael sort of came up with was regarding your sort of guest appearances and collaborations. Anyone who likes heavy metal would have seen Amphetamine, the Crazy Hills track, which you feature in the video, and obviously the vocals as well. You've also worked with the likes of Primal Fear and Delane. Which of your sort of guest appearances and collaborations are you most proud of?
Oh dear. That's a very, very difficult question. But Nymphetamine will always be an exceptional experience for me. That was it just happened within a couple of days. The label back then of Cradle Filth had been trying to get in touch with me for a longer period of time, and everything, I think every email must have landed in spam of my management, so nothing happened. And all of a sudden they got hold of me, and I was asked to join in a collaboration, Nymphetamine. And I was okay, no problem, send me the song. And I was amazed, and I just knew that's just the perfect match. And I talked to Danny, and he told me, we need the honey voice. We really need the honey voice. And it was just perfect. It reminded me of Wild Roses, Kylie Minogue, and A.D.K back then. And I think it's a great piece of music. So yes, we never performed it live together, which is a pity. But we were awarded for a Grammy. We didn't win it. Lemmy of Motorhead won it, which he absolutely deserves. But I think that's my number one collaboration.
Last couple of questions from me, Liv. Actually, they're from my very supportive fiance, Leslie, who is always behind me, all the projects that I do, the video channels, my band, and everything else. And just sort of personal ones, really. When you're not living and breathing music, what do you like to do? And what is your dream destination to visit in the world?
Oh dear. Well, I love being outside in nature. I love to watch nature and to breathe in nature. Right now it's the Swiss Alps. And I love doing sports. I used to be into running, half marathon and stuff like that, but that's not what I really enjoy doing now, being, I would say in the middle of my life, being 46 years old. I like to take it a bit slower, and to sit down and enjoy peaceful moments, to be in the here and now. And it's a new chapter in my life. There is more awareness of the moment. Yes, I think my final destination will be Norway. I already mentioned that my husband and I will move to Norway, back to Norway, in a couple of years, I guess. But one destination I haven't been at yet is Iceland. I would love to visit Iceland and to see Björk live.
Excellent. I think that's everything, Kirk. Isn't it? I just want to wish you well for the show on December the 17th. One very final point. I think you've sort of touched on sort of this with regarding as to where Raymond is currently residing, but I did read in a recent interview for Empire Zone about possible theatre tragedy reunion shows. Can you shed any light on that? Is that a possibility, or does it depend on many factors?
Well, actually, my wish would be to perform with Theatre of Tragedy again, at least perform. My personal view is that it would be very hard to top the albums we did. But what about performing together, getting together back on stage? And even if, Theatre of Tragedy had two singers, why not gather up both Nell and me, and we could do songs from every album. We are talking, and every time I'm back in Stavanger for summer holidays or Christmas, I meet with the guys and we have a couple of beers downtown Stavanger. I think, well, in my opinion, it would be lovely to get back together, at least for a couple of live shows. That will be nice. But it seems like some of the earlier members have kind of closed the doors. So, but you never know what happens. I'm still very optimistic about it.
That's fantastic news. Really hope that comes to fruition.
Yes, absolutely.
It'd be amazing.
Let's tell the universe, all of us.
Maybe you can do the comeback show in Iceland as well. That would be ideal, wouldn't it?
I would love it. I would even be happy just, to play in a bar somewhere in Reykjavik, just to play in a bar with I'm not able to play the guitar that well yet, so maybe somebody could join me just for an acoustic show in Reykjavik. That would be lovely. Who knows?
Definitely. And just to wrap it up then, Liv, so as you know, we're doing the documentary, How to Meet Your Musical Idols. So if you put yourself in our position, if you could interview or meet 5 of your musical idols, who would they be?
Kate Bush, Ozzy Osbourne, Kate Bush, Ozzy Osbourne, Tori Amos.
Oh, I love Tori Amos.
Yeah.
Little Earthquakes and From the Choir Girl Hotel are in my top 20 albums of all time.
She's amazing. Who else? Let me see. Björk, of course. And I would love to talk to the Norwegian band Røyksopp.
Røyksopp, yeah.
Røyksopp. I would love to talk to them too. That was 5, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to try and communicate with them in that strange pseudo language that they created. They created their own language, Røyksopp, didn't they? Which is it's amazing when you listen to the music.
It's amazing, yes. But yeah, that would be my top 5 for now, for this moment.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much once again. Absolute privilege and pleasure, and we're delighted that you agreed to participate in this. And we hope that your fan base as well will enjoy this interview, and we'll learn some more things about you as an artist from this. So, from me, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Absolutely amazing moment. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure and honor. It was lovely talking to you, chatting to you. And if there's anything you would like to know, please get in touch. You got my contacts now. And thank you for being around. Without you, I wouldn't be around. Thank you.
We'll see you at the next London show.
Yes. See you at the show. Take good care.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.